everyone. My name is Karan Prasher, and again, I'm here with Honey Natives and Beyond. Thank you so much for watching our day 1 and day 2 material, and we really hope that you enjoy and learn from day 3 as well. So today we'll be talking about the bee population decline, and let's get right into it. Next slide, please. So yesterday we talked about the different type facing. And as we learned, the population of many pollinators is going down, and actually two particular pollinators that are having real issues are the honeybees and native bees. Next slide, please. So over the last 10 years, colony collapse disorder is a phenomenon that has caused a huge decline of honeybees and beekeepers' hives. Next slide, please. And colony collapse disorder affects mostly honeybees, and it's basically where a majority of worker bees will disappear. Either they will leave the hive or they will die off, and only a couple of the bees plus the queen are left to take care of the young, and this basically causes a lot of the young to die off as well. Next slide, please. Two main numbers to keep in your mind when you're thinking about the pollinators and the issues that they're facing is that over 40% of insect pollinators are globally threatened. So this means that over the last 2 days we talked about some insect pollinators, and around 40% of them have a really high risk of facing these issues. And over 25% of native bees are imperiled and are increasing risk of extinction, which basically means that of the native bees that we talked about yesterday, 25% of them are in danger of dying. Next slide, please.
So this is a Venn diagram showing how different problems can mainly affect either honeybees or native bees, but also which problems kind of affect both. So on the left side here, the left circle, that's the causes of colony collapse disorder, and which is mainly about the disappearance of honeybees. So that means parasites like varroa mites and pathogens, which basically means diseases, mainly affect honeybees. So the native bee population decline, on the other hand, are kind of mainly caused by habitat loss and climate change. So basically the problems on the right circle, which is under native bee native bee population decline, habitat loss and climate change aren't really affecting honeybees. And on the other hand, parasites and pathogens aren't really affecting native bees. But there are problems that affect both. So harmful farming practices, which is basically the usage of pesticides and the practice of monoculture, affects both bees really badly. Next slide, please. Okay. So harmful farming practices is a common factor in both colony collapse disorder and the native bee decline, as we saw in the Venn diagram earlier. So one type of pesticide that is really harmful to bees are neonicotinoids. So neonicotinoids affect both bees and bad pests equally. So they poison both. And monoculture, which we kind of touched upon right before this slide, is basically kind of what the name implies. So as you may know, mono means one. So it kind of means growing only one type of crop for in a very large area of land. So that means bees who live around monocultural areas are only eating the same thing every day because that's all they can find all around them. So this might not sound like too much of a problem, but actually eating the same thing every day is very harmful for bees. So it's kind of like if you ate rice every day. It's healthy in small doses, but not if you only ate rice every single day for the rest of your life. So that means bees are not getting certain nutrients that they need from that one plant. Next slide, please. So yeah, so here's a comic depicting the pesticide issue that we brushed upon earlier. So while farmers are trying to target bad pests that are harming their crops, like the bad aphid on the right, unfortunately, the helpful bugs, like the helpful carpenter bee on the left, are also hurt by association. Just it's like a double-edged sword. You want to hurt one thing, but you also end up hurting the other thing by accident. Next slide, please.
So now we're going to go into the causes that kind of target specifically honeybees, and then we're going to talk about the causes that specifically target native bees. Now that we've seen the harmful farming practices that target both. So parasites and pathogens. So we saw that in the Venn diagram. So the parasites, so what a parasite is it kind of leeches on to another being. So the parasite takes benefit from another being while harming that being. That's what a parasite is. So the varroa is a parasite of the bee. So imagine you have a honeybee hive. It's already pretty weakened from pesticides, not eating right because of monoculture. If you get a varroa mite infestation, you can definitely wipe out an already weakened hive. So you can see that in the little picture, that mite on the bee. So the mites are also spreading harmful viruses or pathogens, which Tammy, she said it's a fancy way to say disease. So the mites are also spreading disease to the bees, which is like double whammy, you know, really hitting these hives hard and causing colony collapse disorder. So native bee population decline. So just a bit of a review from the Venn diagram happening because of habitat loss, change, and harmful farming practices, which we already reviewed. So let's go straight into habitat loss. So we're expanding our cities and our farmland. So that's taking away natural spaces with rotten wood and unpaved ground. Because remember, these native bees are either nesting in the wood or nesting in the ground. And you don't really see bare ground or rotten wood in cities or in farms because you know every inch you need it for like a building or like more crops or something. So think about what would happen if you didn't have a home. You would be left you would definitely be way weaker because you couldn't shelter from like the weather and stuff. So that's what exposed to the elements means. So because they've lost their homes, they're weakened. So the second cause that's specific to native bees is climate change. It's a little bit complicated because it kind of affects the native bee decline in two different ways. So climate change, also known as global warming, is causing the Earth to be warmer than normal. So one way it's affecting bees is it's causing flowers to bloom earlier while these bees are still in hibernation. So the flowers bloom while the bees are in hibernation. But by the time the bees come out of hibernation, the flowers are already dead because they bloomed early because it was warmer earlier. So they're left without food. The second way that climate change affects native bees is, so I think you guys might know that if you move to the north, it gets a little colder because you're closer to the poles. So bee species, like any species, have like a sort of comfortable temperature range they want to stay in. But global warming is making like current space that they're staying in too warm. So they want to move north to get back to their normal temperature. So, but they're, okay, think of, so each native bee species has like a northern border and a southern border. So they're able to move their southern border north, but they're having trouble moving their northern border north. So it's kind of contracting the temperature range or the habitat range that they can stay in. But even if they could move north easily, if we leave global warming unchecked, eventually space for them would run out and the whole globe would be way too hot for them. So here's a diagram for the 3 causes of native bee decline. So you can see that there's no more earth. There's a lot of different icons. They're spraying pesticides. So you guys can look at this and kind of look at this for ideas because we're going to be doing a drawing activity.
So yeah, so you can still do this drawing activity on your own because we also had our regular in-class participants just send their drawings to us online through this link, so you can still use it. So basically what we want you to do is try to like review the causes of the bee decline yourself by like drawing them out, just like the slide before. So here are some examples in the next slide. Yeah, so on the left, here's like a depiction of global warming with the crying earth on fire. Oh no, that's so sad. Yeah, and also habitat loss on the bottom with the trees that bees live around being cut down. Oh, and there's a pesticide too. So yeah, bees are in like really big trouble because like a lot of these causes. So you can either choose to color it or not color it, but personally, I think color would be really effective. Next slide, please. So now that we've talked about why bees are dying and how bees are dying, you must be wondering what you can do to help them out. Next slide, please. So, okay. So if you have a garden or are planning on growing a garden, one really big thing you can do to help is to plant native plants. So I think we touched upon this in previous presentations, but native plants, since they grew alongside native bees, like kind of evolved alongside them, like on day one, co-evolution, where the giraffe grew alongside the tree over time. Well, native bees and native plants did the same thing. So native bees are well suited to helping out native plants, and native plants are well suited to attracting native bees. So not only does planting native plants help your garden be low maintenance, since native plants are well adapted to this environment, it also, as I said before, helps out native bees, since not only are they especially good at pollinating them, they also have less competition from honeybees, since honeybees are probably more attracted to more European plants. But even if you can't plant native plants, planting non-natives helps too, since every bit helps. Next slide, please. Wait. Oh, okay. So some other things you can do is to, as we kind of mentioned before, encourage your parents not to use pesticides. Since pesticides, while they do kill bad bugs, they also end up killing good bugs by accident. So it's best to, at the very least, not use them as long as flowers are in bloom. So basically, only use them when flowers aren't blooming, since that's when bees aren't around. Some other things you can do is to leave some bare ground in your garden for ground nesting bees, which basically means don't over mulch your garden so that ground nesting bees can live in the ground too. And leave out bee blocks for wood nesting bees like carpenter bees. Next slide, please.
Okay, so something else you can do to help the bees is plant native plants for your garden and for your gardens. And some places that you can get these seeds are the Larner Seed Company in Bolinas, California, and they have these pollinator-friendly seed mixes and a lot of other native plants that you can plant. And also you can visit visit California's Native Plant Society, and you can get their information on this link that we have over here. Next slide, please. Some other things you can do to help organizations is to help bees is to join organizations that support pollinators, such as LEAF or Beyond. And you can also inform others of this crisis, like your parents or friends. And you can use resources that we have on our website, or you could link people to our social media and such. And you should also make sure to reduce your carbon footprint. For example, you should maybe walk instead of driving, or use your bikes, or you can recycle rather than throw something in the trash. And this just helps with reducing the impacts of climate change, which is one of the things that bees suffer from. Next slide, please.
So if you happen to be interested in housing solitary bees, you can always craft these sturdy bee homes, which are comprised of a recycled can, bamboo sticks, and a cardboard roll. Take, for instance, a toilet paper or a paper towel roll that you can easily find in your home. Next, you can slice open the cardboard roll before curling it up into a hollowed cylinder as shown on the slide. Ask a parent or adult guardian to cut the bamboo sticks, and then snugly place all of them into the can. From here, all you have to do is then place the bee can outside and wait for the solitary bees to claim it as their rightful home. You can usually tell if the bees are living inside their bee can home if the holes are sealed with leaves or mud. Next slide, please. So aside from crafting bee can homes at home, there are a few ways that you can help scientists with their bee research. One way is to encourage your parents to download the iNaturalist app on their mobile devices, snap photos of pollination taking place anywhere in California, and you can join the California Pollination Project, where your pictures can be shared with scientists and experts who will be able to identify your observations and make predictions based on their findings. Next slide, please. Just to give some insight into how the iNaturalist website and app works. For example, the observer, in this case, Sabina Luck, uploaded the photos of the flowers, and the pollinators, in this case, the Western honeybee and California buckwheat bee, were identified by Jenny H., a Cal State University professor. Since Sabina Luck also listed these, this helps scientists and professors like Jenny to more easily track these possible migration patterns and to take note of these preferred habitats. So as you can see, it's really easy and simple to use the iNaturalist app in order to be actively engaged in helping our environment. Next slide, please.
Okay, so we talked about a couple ways that you could help the bees at home by planting native plants or reducing your carbon footprint, things like that. But we have a final action that you can take in order to help the bees. So by taking our pollinator protector pledge, be featured on our website, and this is just a short pledge that just says that you'll try to advocate for no pesticide use to your parents and advocate for more native plants in your garden. Next slide, please. So as a reward for taking the Pollinator Protector Pledge, you can become part of our website's Hall of Fame. And what this does is that your name and your last initial will be posted on our website along, like, for example, we did this to a couple of other classes, and here are just a few people that wanted to have their names on the Hall of Fame. And you also get our personalized Pollinator Protector Pledge certification, and you get a cute certificate, and it has a little badge on the side too. Next slide, please. Okay, so in order to get these perks and to take the Pollinator Protector Pledge, this is the form that you can take. And on the first page of the form, it will just be like the general questions that you usually see. But on the second page, you have the choice to do the Pollinator Protector Pledge. And you can also use this QR code to access it as well. Next slide, please. So we hope that you were able to learn a lot from our program for the last couple of days. And thank you so much for joining us and learning more about how you can help bees. And we really hope that you guys will take a few actions in your daily life to help the bees in the long run. We'll also have a forum, and we'll get back to you via email as well. Thank you so much. Okay, dope.